Hey everybody, Ryan Grant here and welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm basically going to be going over with you guys how to bulk, and I've broken bulking down to its core principles, and all it is 7 steps from start to finish. My transformation, if you don't necessarily know me, I'll just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Ryan, I'm 19 years old, and over the past 4 years, I've gained over 27 kilos going from this to this. Obviously, there is a little bit more than 7 steps towards this transformation, but to be honest with you, if you break it down to its core principles, these are the 7 things that got me from this to this. Just thought I'd mention that if you want more help beyond these YouTube videos, I have my very own free community which helps men with weight and muscle gain. It's going to be top link in the description, but I don't want to bore you with that right now. I'll bore you with that later at the end of the video. So let's get into step 1, shall we? So the first one that I want to get into with you guys is finding your calorie surplus goal, right? This is obviously the most important thing, because if you don't necessarily know what a calorie surplus is, every single person has a calorie surplus, depending on individual statistics such as weight, height, age, activity level, etc., etc. But I'll get into that in a little bit. But a calorie surplus is basically just where you eat more in a day than what your body would need to stay at the same weight, therefore you gain weight, right? So you basically eat in excess to what your body needs. So say this is your maintenance calories, right? This is the amount of calories you need to eat every single day in order to stay at the same weight, and that is because your body naturally burns that amount every single day, right? Just naturally, right? So for example, your maintenance calories may be 2,000 calories because your body also just naturally burns 2,000 calories as well. However, we want to eat in a calorie surplus. So what we want to do is we want to eat more than the amount that leaves our body. Therefore, this extra amount of calories is going to go towards the gym. We're going to have more energy. We're going to get stronger. We're going to get better. And those extra calories and that energy, it contributes towards muscle growth, and it does have to be stored somehow. So we will gain a little bit of fat, but in turn we gain weight, we gain muscle, and we bulk, and we do what we want to do. So finding out your surplus goal is extremely important. So what I want you to do now as a little action step is click the second top link in the description. It's going to be a link to a calorie calculator. You basically just fill in your age, you fill in your height and your weight and your activity level. You click calculate, and then just under where it says, it gives you the 4 numbers for maintain weight, weight loss, etc., etc. It also says info for gain weight. So you click that, and it basically comes up with 3 or 4 numbers, and you basically want to focus on the one that says you eat this amount of calories, you're going to gain 0.5 kilos a week. So I'll just put a little example up as I'm talking about this right now, so you know exactly what to do. But go to that link in the description, follow what I'm doing on the screen, you see what I'm doing, and find out your calorie surplus goal as if you were to gain 0.5 kilos a week. And that is the amount of food you need to eat in order to gain muscle, right? That is basically it, right? So that's step 1. Step number 2, right? We want to make a meal timings routine, right? And this is something that so many people don't do, and it is such a big step, and so many people wonder why their appetite is shit and they've got no appetite to eat anything. The reason why is because they don't necessarily have consistent meal times, and they don't necessarily eat their meals at similar and or same times every single day. And the reason why this is super important is because it actually allows us to work with our body, right? And this is through a hormone we have in our bodies called ghrelin. And if you don't necessarily know what this is, I go on about it a lot on my channel because it's really important. But it's basically the hormone that tells our brain to stimulate our appetite to eat. Therefore, we feel hungry and we want to eat, right? And if we eat at the same times every day, then in turn, we're going to start to feel hungry at the right times. Therefore, it's going to be a lot easier to eat the food we need to eat, because eating in the surplus, you've got to eat quite a bit of food. Therefore, you're going to be eating in the surplus more consistently. You're going to be gaining weight. You're going to be gaining muscle. You're going to be progressing. It's a win-win, right? So identify gaps in your day. If you have a full day at school, or if you have a full day at work, or if you're dropping your kids off in the morning, or you're actually walking to school in the morning, find out when you wake up and when you go to bed. Find out when you're working or when you're not free to eat. Find out your breaks, and sort of like fill in the gaps around when you around your day to day, right? So for example, I'll give you guys a good example. So I wake up at 7:15. I have my first meal at 7:30 because I go to the gym at 8:30, and that's another thing as well. You want to have a set time to go to the gym because you can then eat your pre-workout meal and your post-workout meal around that, further optimizing things for yourself. So you want to set yourself a time to go to the gym, and then you want to sort of look at your day and fill in the gaps. So I go to the gym at 8:30, as I said, my first meal at 7:15. I go to the gym at 8:30. I get back and have a pre-workout meal around 10:45, 10 o'clock. I'm working for the next few hours. I have lunch at 1. And then I work some more, and then I have another meal at 7, and then I have another meal at 8, 8:15. And that's basically it, right? So find out what times throughout the day you can eat at consistently, because as I just said, we want to basically help our body identify when to feel hungry, so in turn it's going to be a lot easier for us to eat the amount of food we do need to eat, right? And step number 3, so that's now the first 2 steps. So we got your surplus, we've now, well, you should now be looking at creating a meal timings, meal plan, routine, eating at the same times or similar times every day depending on your schedule. That may be a little bit intimidating, right? If you're a beginner to bulking or you're not necessarily sure what to do, you've now got to eat all of these calories, you've now got to eat at the same times every day, super, super strict. However, number 3 is the thing that is going to help you. So what I like to call training, right? So a big mistake that beginners make is that they go straight into things. They rush into trying and eating in a calorie surplus. They rush into a gym routine that's, 5 times a week. They rush into these strict routines, right? However, that's not the way to go, because if you don't build up the foundations and learn the basics and train your way up, then you're inevitably going to crumble, right? It's like if builders try to build a house without building the foundations beneath, the house will just crumble because it has no support beam, right? So we need to train yourself to build this support beam, therefore we can eat in a calorie surplus and stick to our routine sustainably in the long term, right? So training basically just consists of starting to eat at the same times every day, however not necessarily considering a calorie surplus, right? So just slowly increasing your portion sizes every day and getting into a routine of eating at these same times. You may be not eating in a calorie surplus, but it doesn't matter right now. We need to get the consistency, and we need to obviously start helping our body recognize patterns of when we're eating throughout the day, right? So you can even be eating in a slight calorie deficit, maintenance calories, right? That is what matters, because we want to build up these habits for a sustainable, to be able to stick to a routine sustainably in the long term. So just focus on increasing your protein intake right now. What was the other thing I was just saying? Eating at the same times and slowly training yourself to eat more food every day. And I've got a video on my channel that I uploaded very recently that goes through 6 ways you can increase your appetite as well. So if you want to go check that out, that'll be really helpful as well for this process. But just making sure you're training your body up, right? Sort of priming it for the big stuff, right? It's like a 12-year-old kid in a football academy doesn't go straight to the first team. He has to get better, he has to train, he has to practice, he has to improve and prove his worth, and then eventually he'll be at the level to play with the first team. And it's just like you, right? The surplus and consistent gym routine and the strict routine is like playing with the first team in football, but you're 12 years old in the academy, you've got to build up your skills, and in turn, and in this situation, you've just got to build up how much you can eat. Just slowly train your body to eat more, increase your protein day to day, get used to that, and eat at the same times every day. Be consistent with that. So that is the first 3 steps out of 7 covered, right? So now step 4 is very, very simple. You've got to start eating in your surplus, right? Once you've trained yourself, once you've got the rhythm going, once you're in a consistent eating routine, once you're eating lunch at the same time every day, etc., etc., you want to start eating consistently in your calorie surplus, and it's going to get hard. It's going to get tough. It won't be easy. Some days it may be, some days it may be hard. However, you've got to get used to the discomfort, because with anything worth doing in life, you've got to put yourself through discomfort to eventually be comfortable in the long term, right? you've got to put yourself through pain now, because it will get a little bit painful eating the food. I'll be honest with you. I don't necessarily want to be telling you what you want to hear, but just preparing you, and you should be grateful for that. So you can obviously expect that. But yeah, pain now, reward later. You know, delay gratification. You're going to get better results later. So no matter how hard it may be, you want to be eating in your calorie surplus. And in order to just ensure that you are, if you're not necessarily sure about how much you're eating, then there's loads of calorie tracking apps that you can use. I personally use MyFitnessPal, very good app. It has a lot of foods from a lot of supermarkets pre-programmed on there from other users. So, for example, if you got a steak from Sainsbury's, right? I had one yesterday. If that's why it popped into my head. I'm English as well, so that's why Sainsbury's is here. But I can just go on MyFitnessPal and it's already programmed on there from someone else, so it's fantastic, right? So that's number 4, right? So far you've found your surplus goal, you've built a routine, you've now trained yourself up, and now you've just got to start eating in a calorie surplus, right? And I sort of touched on what step 5 is already in terms of tracking calories. So you want to track, right? You want to keep track of your weight, and you obviously, as I just said, want to keep track of your calories. You don't necessarily have to be tracking your calories all the time, but what I would highly suggest for you is to start tracking your calories so you can get an idea of how much you're eating. And if you keep your meals consistent throughout the day and you already know how much they are calorie wise, then you may not necessarily have to track them every day, but I'll just suggest doing it initially, right? So tracking your weight is super, super important, and this is step 5, right? Just tracking, right? Tracking your weight is super, super important, because in order to determine whether we've actually gained weight and whether we're actually bulking efficiently or not, obviously there's different ways, such as we look in the mirror and we see how we're looking, etc. But if we're not gaining weight and the number on a scale maybe staying at the same weight or going down each week, then that's not very efficient, because clearly we're doing something wrong. And the reason why you need to keep track of this is because it gives us data, right? If we're reducing in weight, and if our weight is decreasing week after week, and we actually track it, then we can identify that, and we can then look at our routine and say, what are we doing wrong? What can we fix? What can we improve, right? Am I eating enough calories? What's wrong? You'll find out what's wrong, you'll fix a solution, and then you're going to start increasing the weight again. However, if you didn't even know that your weight was going down because you weren't tracking, then you'd still be doing what was not working, and you'd in turn be making no progress, right? So making sure you track your weight is super, super important, and the best time to do it throughout the day is right when you wake up in the morning. The only exception, the only thing you can do before is go to the toilet, whether that's number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever you think of number 3 is, I'll leave that to you. That's the only thing you can do before you track your weight in the morning. And the reason why this is the most efficient time to do it is because that's when we have the least water weight or food in our body. So it's the most accurate time. So I've just got to make sure I'm filming. Yeah, I am, because this is an absolute banger so far, and I really wouldn't have liked to restart that. I'd have kicked up a fuss if that happened. But yeah, making sure you keeping track of your weight, because you actually want to know if it's working or not. And then if you identify that it isn't, then you can obviously look at your routine, identify the problem, try new things, gain weight. But if you are gaining weight, and you see that, then you can keep that the same. That's perfect. Keep going. Now, if you are keeping track of your weight and you are progressing consistently, yes, you can keep going. However, this is where most people plateau. Now moving on to step 6, that's the one. Step 6, right? Adjusting your calories as you go. This is what people don't do, right? They see themselves gaining weight, and obviously, as I just said, if you're gaining and if things are working, then keep things the same. That's fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing, eating in a surplus with your routine, your gym routine, your recovery. Keep doing what you're doing. However, there will be a point where that will stop working, because you're going to be gaining weight. Therefore, your body needs more to gain even more weight, right? And I just want to use an example, as I started out the gym myself weighing 51 kilos, right? Myself at 51 kilos demanded a lot less food to gain weight than my peak bulk self at 78 kg. Or myself at 5'7" at 78 kilos, I demand a lot less food to gain weight than someone who's 6'4", 150 kilos and looking to gain weight, right? So every 2 to 3 kilos you gain, you can work that out in pounds. You want to sort of go on this calorie calculator again and readjust how much you eat and just slowly increase it, because as Newton's third law states, for every reaction there is an equal or opposite reaction. Basically, in this situation, meaning that if you gain weight, you also require more calories, and the amount of calories you need to gain more weight will also increase. So that's where most people go wrong. They just keep eating the same amount of calories despite their weight gain, and then they eventually just plateau. Right, they have this nice upward phase, and then because they don't do this step 6, they just go like that, right? So adjust as you go. Every 2 to 3 kilos you gain, increase the calories again, because your body's going to have more demands and it will need more calories to gain more weight, you know? So that's number 6. And the final step, number 7, is sort of just how to avoid the plateau again. So if you get burnt out from the routine, eating the foods you're currently eating, and you start to get a little bit sick of it, which I'll be honest, it has happened with me before when I'm bulking, the best thing that I've done to sort of just make sure that I don't plateau is to sort of had a little deload, right? And this is something that is super, super important. There is a time to push past the pain, and there is also a time where you've got to realise that if you sort of don't take a break and you burn out, then the consequences are going to be a lot dearer in the long term, if, you know, in comparison to maybe the temporary, tiny, tiny regression that you may experience if you just take a little bit of time off your diet. For example, if you just get stuffed every time you eat, if you sort of start to have like, or you know, develop a little bit of an unhealthy relationship with food, so you feel hungry, but whenever you eat, you know, you feel like you want to throw up, right? I've seen a lot of people say that. One thing to overcome this is to just temporarily have a little break, whether it's 3 days or a week. That is a window I would suggest. A week at the absolute max. Just don't consider surplus. Eat whatever the fuck you want. Don't necessarily consider protein, and that will get you back into the routine. There is a reason why a deload week with training is an actual thing. And if you don't necessarily know what a deload week is with training, it's basically when you get pretty advanced. It's an advanced protocol for people that have been going to the gym for quite a while. It's basically when you feel your body burning out and you're not as motivated to go to the gym at the moment. You're not feeling strong, you're feeling weak, you're feeling sore everywhere, your body's recovering less, then that sort of initial burning out is telling you that you need to take a deload week. And a deload week is where you either train at a really, really low intensity for a week, or you just take the week off completely. And this also applies with your diet. If you just feel no motivation to eat, your appetite's completely messed up, and you're just getting sick of it, and you couldn't think of anything worse to do than just eat in a surplus, then take a break from it. Just eat whatever you want. Don't consider the calories or the protein or anything. Just distract your mind and get back to it, and you'll be laser focused when you get back to it. And even though that may, you know, actually, as a matter of fact, that won't make you regress at all, but taking this week off instead of trying to push through will do you so much better off. You know, so you may be here, right? And then you feel like you're burning out with your diet, so you come down here and then you go back up here, right? But if you just try to push through this horrible phase, then you may go up a little bit more, but you're eventually just going to fall like that, because you're eventually going to crumble at some point. So they are the 7 steps towards how to bulk without plateauing from start to finish. I hope you have enjoyed this video. And as I said at the beginning, if you want more help from me beyond these YouTube videos, then I have a free community in the top description, in the top of the description down below. I'm going pretty insane. That obviously helps men with muscle and weight gain. We've got 200 plus people in there. I'm sure you'll like it, and it'll be an absolute pleasure to be able to welcome you and help you beyond these YouTube videos. However, if you just want to stay on the YouTube channel, that's fine by me. I will get you in there at some point. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you leave a thumbs up. comment down below your thoughts. If this helped you, comment down below. That really helped me with feedback and stuff. And if you want to stay around on the channel, I upload it every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, so a subscription would mean the world. And I'll be very happy if I have one more person to help through these YouTube videos. So without further ado, I will see you next time.